Hey, how's it going? Today we're gonna play some games with Pidgeot control. Now this deck did really well at Indianapolis Regional. It had 4 in the top 32, that was all one testing group, and 7 people total in the top 64. And with such a small percentage of people playing this deck, 7 in the top 64 is a lot. So with this deck we're gonna want to be choosing to go second, or at least that's what I was doing, and the main goal is probably to set up a Pidgeot and get a Rotom or a Clefaidown and start drawing cards, or you can start attacking with Chi-Yu or Luxray right away, where Chi-Yu for 1 fire, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Luxray for double turbo energy, does 30 and lets you discard a trainer card from your opponent's hand. And we have Claw that we can stick in the active, that if our opponent attacks it, it discards an energy off of the attacking Pokemon. Mimikyu has the ability it can't be hit by EXs or Vs, so it's a good wall Pokemon. We have Snorlax with the block ability that says if this Pokemon's in the active spot, your opponent's active Pokemon can't retreat. And Mawile with the tempting trap attack that you use the attack and then your opponent's active Pokemon can't retreat the next turn, and your next turn your Pokemon's attacks do 90 more damage. The more damage part isn't relevant, but it is good for trapping, and your opponent can't boss or canceling clone to get out of the trap. We have wigglytuff that we can set up at some point, that if it has a special energy attached to it, it has 350 HP, and we can even start attacking with that. We can do, for 3 colorless, it can do 90 plus 90 if you played a supporter card from your hand last turn. And then we have a bunch of disruption supporters like Eerie and Misfortune Sisters. Misfortune Sisters, look at the top 5 of your opponent's deck and discard any items you find there. Eerie, discard 2 items from your opponent's hand. We have Cyllene and Team Yell's here to recover supporters and whatever cards we need. Counter catchers to stick stuff in the active. Hero's Cape to add extra HP. Penny and Sharon's Care to heal. You also have Radiant Charizard to knock out a threat if your opponent has 1 threat that there's no way that you can get around by stalling or anything. And that's the deck, so let's get into the games. So, looks like we're up against Lost Box here. Cloth is definitely not the Pokemon you want to start against a deck like this. They're probably going to attack with Cram early, so it's not going to affect them at all because Cramorant doesn't require energy. But I top deck Pidgey, that's kind of nice, because I can Ultra Ball now Cyllene and Pidgeot for my Rotom, and just start drawing cards and hope that they're not able to knock out my Pidgey before I can evolve it. Just prize checking a little bit here. And it's pretty important. This is definitely one of the decks there you want to know what your prizes are. So when I'm playing it online, I just keep a second screen up with the list so I can just check it real quick. Now I can just Rotom, and I do hit the Arven, so that does make it so that I have access to Pidgeot EX next turn. So I can bench the Mimikyu just for extra fodder, just so we can feed them prizes until we figure out how we're going to win the game. Because this is a hard matchup. They usually play 7 or 8 switch cards, or probably 6 to 8 switching cards, and they have ways to accelerate energy, and ways to knock out Mimikyu, ways to knock out any 2-prizer usually. But I see the fighting energy and I'm like, alright, so this is either the Groudon version or Raging Bolt, and they bench the Raging Bolt. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, because I really like this Raging Bolt deck right now. I kind of wish I had the cards for it in real life. I would play it at some of my cups, I haven't been going to that many cups because it's kind of hard to get around right now for me, but if I did go to some, I would consider playing Raging Bolt. And I get the Arven, so now I get Candy and Forest just to have the Forest around. I do top deck the Eerie though, which I would love to play an Eerie right now, but that's just too greedy. I have to prioritize getting Pidgeot out over not letting them do anything, or over maybe disrupting them a little bit, because even if they had all their switch cards and all their Mirage Gates in their hand, I can't discard all of them anyway. And I'm like, I don't know what to get here, but in hindsight, I should have gotten the Hero's Cape to put on my Pidgeot. Because I guess the game plan that you want to do in this matchup is you want to get a Hero's Cape on your Pidgeot and then go for Fang Snipes with Luxray and try to discard their Gust effects. if you can hit boss and prime catcher, that's really good. And then then you want to start attacking and try to prize trade with the lost box and hitting them with like a late game Iono and like throwing in Eries and Misfortune Sisters when you can. From what I just watched, I just went back and watched part of alloutblitzle's video to see what I did wrong. And my plan in this matchup was, I really didn't know what to do because this seems like atrocious, and I know when I play Lost Zone, I feel usually pretty confident into these style of decks. But after this Eerie hitting double switch cart, I checked how many switches they have. I'm like, alright, that's a viable option. I can try and trap Greninja or maybe Comfy into the active with Mawile or Snorlax. And I'm going to nest ball for a Pidgey here, and then I remembered that my second rare candy is prized, and I don't have access to Cyllene because it is in the discard pile, so I still need to like palpat it back and then find a way to get it, so there's like very small odds that I'm getting into access to another rare candy anytime soon. And I decided not to counter catcher or vacuum. They have two boards in play. They want to move the Raging Bolt out of the active anyway, so counter catcher would be a waste. So I just wrote him and draw 3. And they put a Artisan in play and bench a Sableye, which is quite interesting. Like, I don't know, maybe they're not super familiar with the control list, but if I was just playing a Bouffalant and they put down that Sableye, I could Lost Zone their Psychic, and they probably only play 2 at most. Like, most lists are only playing 1 anyway, or most Lost Zone lists are only playing 1 Sableye. And then I could just win with Mimikyu. Like a Charm on Mimikyu so they can't knock it out with Greninja. But they Sableye onto my Mimikyu, and they should put 130, yeah, 130 on Snorlax, and they should put all 50 on the Snorlax, just to sound like I'm gonna charm it, or something like that. And I was just reading Cloth to see if damage counters placed would discard the energy, but I don't think it does. Or it definitely doesn't. So I want to put a Bravery Charm on my Snorlax and a Mist Energy if I can. So I'm gonna Forest for Eerie. That's a crazy hit. That's like super lucky. So now I can counter catcher up the Greninja. I was debating between Greninja and Comfy, and now I can just draw with Rotom and hopefully hit a Mist Energy for next turn so that they're forced to knock out my guy with the Raging Bolt. And I do draw it, so that's nice. And they just Sada and pass. So that's pretty cool. I Palpad back in a couple supporters, and now I can play down Lumineon for a Misfortune Sisters and hope to hit another switch card because they're running really low on switch cards, and I'm thinking that that's my play. I think that's what I probably should have done last turn, but I guess I didn't. I thought that I did. It must be next turn that I do that. But now, I should do it now, because I didn't know how to play this matchup, so I'm just thinking since they're down, I think they had 2 switch cards left at this point, that's like my best win condition. I just pop in here to make sure it's in the deck. I don't know, I'm always worried that I'd misremember things. And they only have 7 cards in deck. I do hit a switch card. There's pretty good odds there. I'm seeing all their cards in their deck but 2, and we end up winning. They must have had their other one prized or something. Alright, so we got a Greninja in the active, which is usually, you love to see that when you're playing control, but they do bench a Palkia, so they are able to attack with it. But even with a Palkia deck like this, Greninja is still something good to stick in the active because they, they have to manually attach 2 times to keep building it up in between attacks. But yeah, you can, because Greninja is like the one card in most decks right now that can be Mawile or Snorlax trapped in the active, and your opponent can't stream attacks with it in really almost any deck. Like maybe Lost Box and Chi and Power are the 2 that can do quite a few Greninja attacks in a row, but we have a decent enough hand. We can Buddy Pop in. I wanted to get double Pidgey, but we only have 1 Pidgey. That's kind of scary. So I just bench the 1. I Heroes Cape it so that it can't be Greninja'd. and bench Snorlax. I'm trying to thin my hand out here for Cleffa so I can draw as much as possible. And I'm just debating what cards exactly I want to bench. And I grab a Nest Ball and a Forest Seal Stone to just get Rotom down. And I decide that I can just retreat to Snorlax and draw 3 with Rotom, because I would like to have a Snorlax in the active right now. I don't know that that was the best play in the world, because they're not going to be able to retreat and attack with Greninja. But with the Forest combined with the Rotom, I do have Candy Pidgeot next turn right in hand, so that's definitely useful. And this deck is pretty hard to play without Pidgeot. You have to rely a little bit on luck, like rotoming into the right cards and so on. And in this matchup, there's really like no harm in having Cleffa in play. Really only Sableye can like take advantage of that a lot. And they have a Ciphers, so they can get any cards they want, and the cards that they want is Prime Catcher and Vessel. So that sucks to see, because they're probably going to take out my Pidgey or Rotom. I'm kind of hoping they take out Rotom before Pidgey, because I would really like to get Pidgey out in play. It just makes this deck flow so much more smoothly, and sometimes people get like kind of blinded by the prizes, so they'll go for stuff like Rotom, but I have Cleffa in hand so I can, or in play, so I can draw either way, so Pidgey is absolutely the correct choice. And there's also a chance that maybe they didn't have enough energy to knock out Rotom. They do only have 4 cards in hand, so Pidgey might have been really their only option. So that sucks. I promote Cleffa because it has free retreat, and now I'm not really too sure what to do, so I just rip the Pokestop. Control's one of those decks that you don't mind hitting Pokestops, because unless you like need a card that is not an item that turn, then you don't want to risk it, but you don't really mind thinning out extra cards with Control because you can get everything back. But I'm forced to use Team Yell's Cheer for the effect of getting a Pokemon back, and Ultra Balling for my Pidgey, and then I can just Grasping draw again, or retreat to Snorlax. That's an interesting choice. So luckily I had 2 counter catchers in hand, so I can kinda like at least have enough to make their life inconvenient. But I play down the Forest to draw an extra card off Cleffa, because they can knock out, I could retreat to Snorlax and they can't retreat, but they wouldn't retreat, they would just knock out my Snorlax with their Palkia anyway. And they have another code breaking, so they can get basically, they can get whatever they want this turn. But as long as what they want is not a way to knock out my Pidgey, I do have Pidgeot, or Candy Pidgeot in hand next turn, so that's pretty nice. We have Radzard at Fire, which is kind of cool. Because I don't know, I was thinking one of my plans for this matchup was to get my bench down, let them take a couple more knockouts, and then get Cloth, like Radiant Charizard, their Goldango, and then get Cloth in the active and force them to keep hitting into my Cloth with their Palkia, and it would discard an energy every time. And if I could Penny Loop that a few times, and maybe even play Eerie's and Misfortune Sisters to try to hit their superiors and stuff, that is kind of what I was thinking. But I do top deck Pidgeot, which is nice, and I don't even know what to get with Pidgeot this turn. I am debating, I could get Eerie, but their hand's so small, I'm just gonna try to like start hitting their energy retrieval cards. This is kind of what I'm thinking is my best bet, is to make it so they can't get energies back. And I do counter catcher up the Gimme Ghoul, because I don't know, I'm just hoping their hand is so small that they won't be able to attack with it this turn. And then next turn I can play that Eerie, I can get full knowledge of what exactly is in their hand, and then go from there. Decide if I want to try to trap Greninja or not. They do hit a superior, and in matchups like this, decks are kind of forced to play their superiors when they get them, which, I don't know, it's really annoying to play against. So they do end up using it. And I'm not too sure what exactly my plan is for next turn. Probably just like, hopefully keep drawing with Rotom and use an Eerie and Misfortune Sisters to attack their resources. I think that's all I can do, and they hit me with the canceling clone. And that's, you don't like to see that. So I think I do have one more counter catcher in the deck, so I do have one more opportunity to stick something in the active before I have to start Cylening and recovering those cards. But luckily, Pidgeot is really nice in this deck too, because having a free retreater just always comes in handy. We rip the Pokestop and get lucky enough to hit a counter catcher. So now if I want, I can just grab whatever I want, because I do have Ultra Ball in hand. I'm just reading Defiance Fest, deciding what exactly to do. Because I think I want a Mawile trap the Greninja into the active. Because I'm thinking they can probably one-shot my Jigglypuff they really wanted to. I throw out the Eerie, I only hit one card, but I hit Switch. So that was like, they're probably pretty upset about that. I know I would be. And so I counter catch their Greninja, knowing that this deck normally doesn't even play a Switch, I don't think. So I highly doubt that they have another one. I can put the Bravery Charm on the Mawile, then they have to two-shot my Mawile with Greninja, and it's stuck in the active. They can't cancel and clone their way out of it or anything. And they're already down their Prime Catcher. I just got rid of their Switch. And now, like, this is what you're looking for in these control decks. Just a moment to breathe. You have 6 prizes to establish some kind of lock or something that your opponent can't get through. Either a lock like this or a wall that your opponent can't knock out. And that's even better this turn because they don't even attach an energy. So I like to see that. And now I can play the Pal Pad, start Pidgeotting for probably Misfortune Sisters this turn since they didn't attach an energy. I don't know if they would have energy retrieval in their hand, so I play that. I hit a Superior. Their deck's pretty low, they barely played any. There's pretty good odds that I hit some sort of energy recovery item off of Misfortune Sisters. And now I can just Mawile, Tempting Trap again. So that's a relief. That really, this is the point you're hoping to get to. If you don't, then you just lose. So they do attach this turn, and that does start putting on pressure because they could win with 3 Greninja attacks. So I have to start weaving in Penny loops, and I do top deck the Penny, so that's nice. I don't have to bother putting a Penny into my hand. And I was thinking about, my original plan here was to Penny up the Rotom, but that's why I used the Forest right there, but I decided not to. I'd rather wait for them to hit into it twice, because it seems pretty obvious, like, or if they try to boss stall it. But I hit the Cyllene and I'm just debating what to get. I maybe should have got Counter Catcher, but Pal Pad's always a safe bet. You can't go wrong with that, and I don't really want to top deck it next turn. Or I wanted to Pal Pad back Cyllene, so that's why I did it in that order. And just Tempting Trap again. They should be good to attach and hit into my Mawile, and then I'm forced to Penny up the Mawile and retreat and like restart this loop. But that gives me an extra turn to Pidgey for whatever card I want. So I probably should Pidgeot for Eerie this turn, I think. Or I could just get another Pal Pads, keep recovering resources. But yeah, I think I'll go with Eerie, because I want to Penny this turn, and I want to Eerie them next turn now that they've had a couple turns to draw cards. And I also noticed they haven't been, I don't think they've been drawing with their Goldango, which, one thing, they don't want to deck out faster, so that makes sense. But also people tend to start doing that when they have cards like that they don't want you to Eerie away in their hand. So maybe the Eerie would have been better, but I'm worried here about an energy switch. I don't want to risk having them hit an energy switch and knocking out my Mawile, because I have no good way to recover it. But the Eerie hits the Superior, which is kind of what I was hoping based on the way that they were playing. And even if it didn't, that's fine. I'm just going to keep looping Penny, Misfortune Sisters, and Eerie until they run out of ways to get energies back. And they attach, so now they're going to hit into me and probably hit into the Rotom. So this would be a weird turn where I have to decide if I'm going to Penny the Rotom or the Mawile. And I decided that I would Penny the Mawile first, because they can go down to 1 prize as long as they don't take that last prize. I really don't care. and the Mawile is way too important for my win condition. Now I could Pidgeot or no, I couldn't even get it because his Team Yell's Cheer is not in my deck yet. So yeah, I would have to Palpad back Yell's Cheer and get it to recover Mawile, and then Ultra Ball for the Mawile in order to get it back. So that's why I decided to Penny it, because it's just too risky. Having them knock that out could lose me the game. And I'm debating Ultra Balling just to thin my deck out, but I'm trying to think of like what card I would want to even thin out of my deck. And it's like between a Skateboard and the Luxray. And I go with the Luxray because I'm probably not going to attack with that. I'm going to Mawile lock them for the rest of the game, so as long as I don't forget to hit Tempting Trap, that's good. I grab Lumineon because there's going to be a turn that I can use that for a supporter. I could Pidgeot for a Palpad or whatever, and then grab what supporter I want with the Lumineon, and then even if they boss it up, I can just Penny that back up, go back into the Mawile. They do grab a Superior with their Irida, and I think this is where they stop playing the game, which is unfortunate. It's always kind of annoying when people do this, like just concede. I'm not playing this on the casual ladder, I'm playing this on ranked. You gotta expect to run into decks like this from time to time. I don't see the point of wasting both of our times. They probably just like got up and walked away from their computer, like went to the bathroom or something. But since I know it's in their hand, I'm just gonna Eerie, and we do take the win because they time out because of like timeout for being inactive for too long, but we would have won anyway because there's nothing they can do. They can't attack with Greninja enough times to win the game before I can deck them out, and they're also about to run out of energy because I've removed all their energy recovery cards. But I'm just gonna fast forward through this. Believe it or not, this is 5 times speed, and they're just sitting there doing nothing, and I just keep playing out the turns how I would, because I don't want them to be like sitting there passing at the last second and then I lose the game or something because of that. But this is Pidgeot Wigglytuff control. It's kind of unfortunate that I didn't get to use the Wigglytuff at all. I really wanted to set it up in the Lost Box matchups, but one I played, they knocked it out too early and I ended up losing that game because I don't know. I gotta rewatch the video and see how you're supposed to play that matchup, but I was thinking that Wigglytuff would be a good win condition for that, and yeah, it didn't work out. And then the other one, I just prized the Jigglypuff so I could never get it set up. But that is the games, and hope you guys enjoyed, and have a good one.